All right, last week on Easter Sunday, we had a really, really great service. I want to thank you guys for being a part of that and coming on out for that. But Pastor talked about what character in the Bible? Who can remember? Who did you talk about last week? Thomas, that's right. Pastor Dave was listening to sermons. He knows how to listen to sermons. Thomas, who also was known as Doubting Thomas, I just want to give you a quick recap. If you heard Pastor Eric in that video, he said, "I'm glad to see you're not stuck in a Saturday." That's basically the theme that he was going with Thomas, who was stuck in his Saturday because Jesus had died on the cross. They were waiting. They were afraid. They were hiding behind locked doors. And Thomas wasn't there when Jesus appeared to them first, and he said, I don't believe he's real unless I can actually touch the holes in his hands and wrists where the nails were, and in his side where the Roman soldier pierced him with a spear. I want to be able to actually physically see this and experience it before I'll believe that it's real. But the theme was that Thomas got stuck, that he lost his faith, and in the middle of the weekend, even though Jesus had promised some things, that he got stuck and gave up his faith and was just trusting in what he could see. And so I encourage everyone to get online on ctsandusky.com and actually go back and look at some of these messages. This series here, the one before it, #Goals, which was 2 before it. Then we had a series on missions called Go. And to get online, and you can listen to the audio, and actually there's a link there on the website to click on, and you'll get the video that will pop up. Or you can go right to YouTube and look for CT Church, and you'll find the YouTube videos of the messages up there. So I encourage you to go back and listen to the one from last week. It was really, really good. And we're just going to continue on here. And I'm going to get to that word, declare, here in just a couple of minutes. This is where we're going with this today. I want to ask you a question. Do you think that you could ever surprise Jesus? Do you think you could ever make God look at you and go, wow? Take a step back. You think? Have you ever had a wow moment? Have you ever been watching something and something just made you go, whoa? I've been to a lot of shows. I've been in shows. I love the stage. I love to perform in theater, and one of the things, and so I've actually gone to see a lot of shows, and if a show has what I call a wow moment with the set or with the effects or with even the acting and definitely the singing, I will sit back in my seat and just go, whoa, wow. Do you remember when you were a kid and you first went to a fireworks show? I remember our oldest Laura. She was in the stroller, and she was just looking up, just, oh, and the look on her face was one of awe, and I can't believe what I'm seeing. You ever had those moments in your life? Maybe in a movie you saw, maybe something that you experienced, and you just were like, wow. That made you step back and go, whoa. Do you think that we could ever do that to God? That God would look at you and something you did and go, wow. I think God has looked at me a lot of times and gone, ugh. Holding the angels back. No, it's okay. Calm down. Let me kill him. Let me hit him once, please. I think God has done the face slap, the head slap with me many times. Oh, son. I'm actually going to share with you a story from the life of Jesus where someone actually gave Jesus a wow moment, where Jesus actually went, whoa. I'm going to share that story with you. And maybe you've heard it because it actually happened a couple of times. And we're going to go to the book of Luke. Now, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John are the first 4 books of the New Testament, which is I guess you could call it the second half of the Bible, and they're all different accounts of the life of Jesus from different vantage points of 4 different writers, and they wrote their stories down. And that's why you see a lot of overlap. Sometimes you'll see a story that happens in more than one of these books, and sometimes you'll see a story, an account in one of the books that's not in the other. And if you do Bible study, all of that is deliberate because there's intended audiences that read each of these. And Luke here, tradition says that he is a very educated man, that he was a physician, so he was a smart guy. And he included a lot of detail and things, and he included this account right here from Luke chapter 7. I'm going to put my reading glasses on so I can actually read this. Luke chapter 7, we're going to look at verses 1 through 10. When Jesus had finished saying all this to the people who were listening, he had just been talking, he entered Capernaum. It's a city. There, a centurion's servant, whom his master valued highly, was sick and about to die. The centurion heard of Jesus and sent some elders of the Jews to him, asking him to come and heal the servant. Not the first time somebody went to Jesus to ask for a miracle, right? Okay, next. When they came to Jesus, they pleaded earnestly with him. This man, the centurion, deserves to have you do this because he loves our nation and has built our synagogue. So Jesus went with them. He was not far from the house when the centurion sent friends to say to him, Lord, don't trouble yourself, for I do not deserve to have you come under my roof. That is why I did not even consider myself worthy to come to you. But say the word, and my servant will be healed. For I myself am a man under authority, with soldiers under me. I tell this one, go, and he goes. And that one, come, and he comes. I say to my servant, do this, and he does it. When Jesus heard this, he was amazed at him. And turning to the crowd following him, he said, I tell you, I have not found such great faith even in Israel. Then the men who had been sent returned to the house and found the servant well. I want to look at this word here, this word amazed. I did some research on this word because we call things amazing all the time, don't we? That's amazing. That show was amazing. That movie was amazing. That dinner was amazing. You know, this weather is amazing. Well, not here. Amazed. I was talking to my mom on the phone yesterday, and I was talking about how the weather can't decide what it wants to do up here. It's like 6:40. She goes, I know, here too. Mom, you're in Jacksonville, Florida. What are you talking about? Come live up here for 6 months. Amazed means to wonder, wonder at, to marvel, to be held in admiration. This word is a strong word. What we might use as something casual to refer to a cheeseburger we just had, you know, is actually here meaning something that made Jesus himself take a step back and go, wow. That to me is amazing. Because let me tell you something about this guy. He's a centurion, which means he was a Roman soldier in charge of 100 soldiers under him, thus the name centurion, cent meaning 100. Century, 100 years. 1 cent, 100 pennies make a dollar. Cent means, it points to the word 100. The Roman government, the Roman Empire, was not a peaceful force. It was an occupying force. They came over the land and took it over. They were oppressive. This was not a guy who grew up a Hebrew, one of God's people. He was part of this government and this army that was oppressing God's people. In fact, there was a rule that they had that if a Roman soldier came up to you, if you were a Jew, and said, carry this for me, you were obligated by law to carry that item for 1 mile. 1 mile. You had to. You had to drop what you were doing and do it. That was the law. You were not allowed to say no. And I have to believe that there were many who abused this. And many of the Jews were treated very poorly. But here was this centurion that actually was looked up to and respected by the Jews, but he wasn't one. And Jesus, the Son of God, was amazed and astounded and wondered at and held him in admiration because of his faith. Someone that did not even claim to be a follower of God. In fact, the Romans had like all these other gods, and they had all of these weird things they would do to worship these gods. But this Roman centurion amazed and astounded Jesus with his faith. What made him different? Because many people, through the scriptures, you'll find many people came to Jesus asking for miracles. Many people, the crowds would find him. He would even try to go out alone somewhere, and the crowd would find him. And then he would be moved with compassion, and he would minister to them. But what made this guy different than others who asked Jesus for a miracle? Because he didn't just ask for a miracle. He declared what was true about Jesus. He didn't deny the reality of the problem with his servant. He declared the reality of who Jesus is. This statement here, to me, is one of the most awesome statements anyone has ever made to Jesus. When he said, I understand authority, teacher, because I have it and I'm under it. And if you would just say the word, my servant will be healed. I know the authority you have. You have authority over this sickness. And all you have to do is tell it to go, and it will go. What a powerful statement of faith from someone who did not even claim to be a follower of God. Not part of the Hebrews. Not one of them. But yet Jesus stepped back and went, whoa. What a place of humility this man took. I'm not even worthy for you to come to my house. I'm not even worthy to have approached you myself. I sent my servants to do it. I'm not even worthy to look you in the face. But I know the authority you have. Just say the word and it is done. And Jesus, whoa, wow. I have never seen faith like this in all of Israel. He was talking about his people. Because this guy declared something about Jesus. He didn't run up to Jesus. Jesus, my servant is hurting, and then I'm going to lose a bunch of money if he dies because I got to go find another one, and I got to go train somebody, and this is awful, and it's going to cause me so much inconvenience. Could you please get me out of this mess? He didn't just talk about his problem. He declared something true about Jesus in the middle of it. And Jesus said, that's impressive. Could you imagine if you could hear the voice of God speaking to you and something you said or did and he goes, whoa, that's impressive. That amazes me. That you could actually amaze Jesus with your faith. This guy did. Now, a couple other times in the scriptures, the scriptures use the same word. And I'll give you those. It's not going to be up there. But this whole idea of amazed. Jesus said the same thing to a Samaritan woman who asked him for a miracle. You know, this was a Samaritan woman. These are not people that the Jews liked. They didn't like him at all. They despised him. And it was the one who came to the table and asked Jesus for the miracle. And Jesus said, you know, it's the master of the house does not give its bread to the dogs. And she said, and it almost sounds really mean, something Jesus would say, but this woman replied with, yes, but even the dogs lick the crumbs that fall off the master's table. And Jesus said, I've never seen faith like this. You get your miracle. Two people, non-Jews, astounded Jesus with their faith and made him go, wow. And then there were people who astounded Jesus with their lack of faith and made him go, wow, I cannot believe that I'm standing here in the midst of all this doubt and so much lack of faith. It's the same word, amazed. The same word. And not to be held in admiration, but to wonder at. I I'm almost speechless that I'm around all these people that have no faith. In Mark 6, Jesus was amazed at their lack of faith, and these were his own people in his own country. And it even records that he could do no miracles there. He couldn't heal anybody. He couldn't minister to anybody. No miracles at all. And these were his own people, the people of God. And he was amazed at how they had no faith. And he just took a step back and went, whoa, wow, I can't believe this. What you are, I can do no miracles here. It tells you something about Jesus, doesn't it? That Jesus went where he was welcomed, sometimes where he wasn't, because he had something to say. But that he will minister to and love anyone who comes to him. Anyone. Even the biggest enemy in your life. So what was so impressive about the centurion? What was so impressive about what he said, you know? And what was impressive about the Samaritan woman too? These people, they understood what faith was. Biblical faith. And I'm not talking about some weird thing that you might see on TV somewhere where you just name it, claim it, frame it, and it's mine. Ha! You know, and I remember we went through a period of time when I was growing up where everything was like you're pregnant with the blessing, so you need to give birth with the blessing. And I'm not going to knock theology on this, but people took it and ran into, well, I want a new car, so I'm going to be pregnant with the new car and believe God's going to give birth to the new car. And it was all about getting things and not about knowing God. That's the problem. When faith is used for me to get personal stuff, and that's my goal, I am misusing faith no matter what scriptures I throw at it. That's good. You need to listen to that. When faith is being used for me to just get stuff and get the blessings, if that's what they are, and get the stuff, if that's what I'm using faith for, it doesn't matter how many verses I throw at it, I'm misusing faith. Biblical faith does this. It acknowledges and states everything about what you're going through, but it does not end the story there. It then declares continuously who God is, what he can do, and keeps your thinking and speech there, not on the circumstance. I'm going to leave that up there for a little bit. Feel free to read it. You got that bad news from the doctor. Faith does not mean you don't talk about it. Faith doesn't mean you don't actually say that scared you. Faith doesn't mean that you ignore it like it doesn't exist. That's actually a little weird. You know, I'm not going to walk out in the middle of Cleveland Road there and just say, well, cars don't exist, cars don't exist, cars don't exist, and then wonder why I get hit. That's not faith. That's being stupid. Okay? So faith does not deny the reality of what you're facing. You get that word from the doctor. The boss says the plant is closing and you're about to lose your job. You're lonely. Your family goes through the heartache of a divorce. You're dealing with legitimate anxiety and depression, and I don't mean your self-diagnosed anxiety and depression. I mean your legitimate, actual diagnosed anxiety and depression. Side note. I'm going to the side because it's a side note. I don't know why it did that. But why do we do that? This is a generation that is so medicated and so depressed and full of anxiety. But so many of them are self-diagnosed because they're sad. They go through something rough and they're like, well, I'm dealing with anxiety and depression. And well, has a doctor examined you and have you had the test? Well, no. But I know I am. So leave me alone because I'm dealing with this. Oh, whoa. We don't do that with other things. Why are we doing that with that? You know, I ate too many donuts this week. I'm dealing with some diabetes. We don't do that. Then why are we doing that with something that is so harmful and so crucial like anxiety and depression? Some of you understand. You've been crippled by it. You know what it is. And when someone just says they have it and they self-diagnose, doesn't that bother you? That's a little side note thing. But I say that to say this because, listen, The same God that we say, please heal my family member who's in the hospital because they got in the car accident, and we pray for them for their restoration and healing. This is the same God that can completely restore your heart and your mind to where anxiety and depression do not need to be medicated anymore. Where God can actually change even your physiology in the chemicals in your brain to where it's producing what it needs to produce and you are made right. God has that ability to heal. Heal all that. You know what I used to say when I was a kid? When I was a teenager, I had this. My heart would break when I would see somebody who was mentally handicapped, and I would actually start crying when I would see. I went through the season, and I remember, like, we constantly have people come forward who are praying for healing, 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 healing. I remember telling my mom, "Can't God heal somebody who's mentally handicapped and restore them to complete health in their brain and their mind?" You know, I work with special needs kids now. I see it. I love them. They're amazing. They're amazing. They are. They do astound me constantly, and I love them so much. And I'm just like, oh, sometimes I would see, and I'm like, oh, God can just say the word, and you can be made whole, you know? Healing, provision, restoration, loneliness, and peace. So you've gotten that bad news, and you see that big thing in front of you. Well, biblical faith does not mean that you ignore it or don't talk about it. I know what it's like. It's scary. It's hard. It's huge in front of you, and you're looking at it going, I don't know what I'm going to do with this. But here's the mistake we make. Is we stop there. We talk about the problem, we talk about what caused it, we talk about what we're dealing with, fine, and then we stop. And I feel like God is looking at us and going, but, and waiting for us to say something else. I wanted to call this, and Pastor Eric said I shouldn't, well, I wanted to call this, faith always has a big but. And I wanted to call it this because in the middle of your situation that you face, whatever it is, whatever it looks like, you take a big but and you put it right in the middle of it. It's crude, I know, but B-U-T, but. However, the doctor said this, and it scared me, and I'm not sure what comes next, but I'm going to start talking about what I know to be true about God. And that's where I'll put my thinking, and that's where I'll put my speech. The problem is so many of us talk about the problem, we talk about the story, we talk about the issue, and then we stop there, and the next time we get to talk, we talk about the problem, we talk about the story, and we talk about the issue, and then the next person that will listen, we talk about the problem, we talk about the story, we talk about the issue, and on and on and on, and we swim in that and wonder why we don't have peace, and wonder why we don't have encouragement, and wonder why we feel like God is distant, and we wonder why God's not coming through for us. Because God is up there going, but what do you know to be true about me? In fact, some of us, guilty as charged, we even turn things back towards God, shake our fists and say, you did this to me. I'm not only going to not just ignore you, I'm going to actually blame you. So stop telling people when they get a bad report from the doctor or from a job or whatever the situation is. Well, we don't know what God's plan is. It's all part of his plan, all part of his will. Yeah, God is in heaven going, let me see who I can strike with cancer today. You, ha ha ha, you, ha ha. Like he's some kind of sick monster. Stop telling people that because it's not biblical. Hear me? Don't tell people that. It's not scriptural. We don't understand God's will. Yeah, I know. His ways are not my ways. But I don't believe God is mean. I don't believe he's just looking who he can take out. He's not mean like that. That's not faith. That's a very humanistic view of God. If God was just a person who lived on this earth, who was a monster, what would he do? He would pick on people because he thought it was funny. And that's how we treat him. And I've done this. I've blamed God for my issues. And this is another reason why churchgoers, us church-going people, are so sad so many times. I actually kind of got in a shouting match, not with God, but I was kind of like talking to God. I wasn't mad at him, just the situation I was looking. I'm like, yeah, I know a lot of people who don't serve the Lord. And why are so many of them so happy? And why are so many followers of Jesus so miserable? This is backwards. Why are people, it seems like, man, I know people who've got like these great marriages and great relationships and friendships and lives, and they don't want to have anything to do with Jesus. And then I know people who follow Jesus and they serve the Lord and they're church-going people and they're faithful to church and they're just miserable. Why? And I'm like, God, come on. I'm tired of living like that miserable guy. I've been going to church my whole life. I don't want to be miserable. That's not faith. That's not walking in biblical faith. And I think this might be one of the reasons, is because we talk about the problems we face, and we talk about them, and we're just swimming in that mood that it creates, and we swim in it, and we swim in it. When God is saying, no, wait, I need you to talk about me. What do you know to be true about me? So you got the bad report from the doctor. God is Jehovah Rapha, the Lord who heals. You're about to lose your job. You're about to get your hours cut. I know what it's like to have a good salary, benefits, all the good stuff, and then gone. But God is Jehovah Jireh, the Lord who provides. If I stay faithful with my tithing. And that's not a shameless plug. That's a biblical plug. If I stay faithful to him, and I stay faithful to my giving, and I'm going to share a story in just a second about that. I'm lonely. I feel by myself. God is the one who will never leave you or forsake you. In fact, even if your own mother and father have turned their backs on you, the Lord will not do that to you. That's in the Bible. I'm in so much turmoil and I cannot sleep. God is your peace. I'm dealing with so much, God. I've lost sleep over it. Man, I'm wrestling. This is hard. I don't want that report, man. Get that out of here. I don't want to lose this job. I'm facing this problem in my marriage and my family, and my kids did this, and my parents did this, and this is going on. What are we going to do? And even as a church, God, what are we going to do? Here's the reality of what I'm facing, but God, I know you are in control, that you are my provider, that you are my healer, that you are the one who restores my soul, that you are the one who heals my mind. You are the one who gives me rest at night. You are the one that I put my trust in. That's faith. That's biblical faith. You declare something about God that fits your situation. And not, oh God, maybe I kind of hope, if it's your will, to maybe help me out a little bit. If you could help me, maybe help. Now, sometimes if you're in an emergency place, and have you ever yelled help to God? I have. God, help! All right, help me, help me, help me. That's fine. Sometimes it's really good to be desperate, and call out on the name of the Lord, because the Bible says he answers. What I'm talking about is you're facing your situation and you're a follower of Jesus and you're just like, oh, I don't know. This is really heavy. It's too much for me to handle. I don't know. Maybe God can kind of help me. And maybe we come to church and maybe we don't, and we wonder why we're lonely. But we're not connecting with people, but we wonder why we're lonely. And maybe we work really hard, but we're not getting out of the financial hole that we're in. We can't seem to get ahead, and we're just kind of scraping and pulling, but we're working hard, but we're not tithing and being faithful to what he says to do in his word, and we're wondering why God's not blessing. But in the middle of all of this, what God is saying, what do you know to be true about me? Talk about that. Plant your thinking there. Plant your speech there. This is where I made the big mistake in my life, is my speech didn't match what I knew to be true in my heart. And I got called on it, not directly, but through a sermon I was hearing at an event I was at, where what I was doing was I created my situation, I molded it into an idol I was worshiping. And that's what this preacher said. And I said to God, I'm not bowing down to it. I'm not offering sacrifices to it. I'm not singing songs to it. The very next thing he said, he said, what do you talk about the most? And what do you think about the most? That's an idol in your life. Oh. It was that situation, that story. Because I wasn't saying, yeah, it hurt, but God will take care of me. But God is my provider. But God will hold me in his right hand and not let me fall. But I know God to be true. And even though I'm hurting right now, God will restore my life. He will restore my emotions. He will restore my mind. He will restore my life back to a place of being prosperous emotionally and in my family. God will take care of me, and I'm going to put my trust in him. And if I had talked like that more, my healing would have come faster. Okay? Now, back in 2014, we went through a really tough financial time during the early part of the year. It was hard, and Nicole wasn't working at the time, and even though I had a good position, we were still, for some reason, we were struggling. It was really hard. But I kept telling my kids, God's going to take care of us. And I used that phrase, and I said it probably 150 times. God is going to take care of us. God is going to take care of us. God is going to take care of us. I said it over and over again. This is one of the times I got it right, just so you know. God is going to take care of us. God is going to take care of us. And I said it over and over again. I said it to my kids, what are we going to do? I know you guys are struggling, Mom, Dad. God is going to take care of us. And by the way, I never stopped tithing. I stayed faithful with my tithing. And I didn't do it just because the Assemblies of God tells me I have to. Because I went through a time where I didn't care if I had my ordination card or not. Seriously. I still remained faithful with my tithes. I stayed faithful, and I knew God's going to take, and it was hard sometimes, because sometimes I opened up the money book, I'm like, that doesn't reflect what I'm saying with my mouth. There aren't enough zeros after that number. But God's going to take care of us. Well, Nicole got a new job, a good job, something she's really good at, and she has been shown a lot of favor at that place. And right after she got that job is when I went through the time in my life where I didn't have one. And it was God saying, I'm going to provide for you because you have made statements of faith. And we're still here. We didn't wind up in the poorhouse. We didn't wind up out in the street. God took care of us because I made a declaration with my mouth in the middle of the situation of what I knew to be true about God. He's not going to let me fall if I stay faithful to him. One of the most wonderful people I ever knew, and Pastor Dave and Irma, I don't know if you knew this woman. Her name was Chris Wood. She was over at Faith Memorial in the choir that I directed, and she battled leukemia for years. Wonderful older lady. And I was there around the time her husband passed away, and I would ask her. I'd see her at church. She would still stay faithful to church, man. She was hurting, but she stayed faithful to church. And every time she'd come in, I would ask her, I would say, Chris, how you doing today? And she never said, I'm hurting. She never said, oh, had a rough week. Had a rough week, Sam. I'm in a lot of pain. I might have to sit down during the music today. I would have been like, sure, that's fine. You do what you want to do. Every time I asked, how you doing? She said, God is so good. God is so good. Oh, man, I remember that. And I'm going to remember that for the rest of my life. Because she chose to walk in faith and not walk in fear of her problem, in fear of her situation. This kind of faith, this biblical faith, which is just gut level, I know what I'm facing, and I'm even going to describe it, and then I'm going to talk about God in the midst of it. Why do we have to do it that way? Because faith has got to set itself up to win. And you set faith up to win by describing what you're going through. The problem is we stop there, and that's where we stay, and that's why we're sad and nothing happens. Okay, this is rough. Back in the #Goals series, one of the messages that Pastor Eric preached was embracing the F word, and it's the word forgiveness. And on the TV out there in the foyer, you'll see a clip from that message where he talks about what forgiveness is not ignoring what that person did to you, and it's not saying that it's okay that you betrayed me. No, it actually acknowledges this was wrong, this was evil, what you did was bad. It actually does that so that forgiveness can say, I'm not going to let that decide who I am. Well, faith works the same way. Faith becomes faith when you say, this is what I'm going through. This is what I'm facing. This is the wall in front of me. This is the big fat mountain that is in front of me and I can't see past. And I'm setting faith up to win because I'm going to look at that situation and say, let me tell you what I know about God. The only reason I'm describing who you are is because I'm going to tell you who God is now. And that sets faith up to win. And that's the type of faith that moves the hand of God on your behalf. So try it. Try it out. Next time you hit a financial hardship, man, stay faithful with your tithes and say, God is my provider. Jehovah Jireh, the Lord who provides. The next time you're struggling and dealing with some loneliness or whatever, God is the one who heals my heart. Jehovah Rapha, the word for healer, it means the whole person, not just your physical body, your mind and your emotions, your strength. And I'm going to give you an example in the Old Testament of a guy that maybe we've heard of, King David. He wrote a lot of songs. And in Psalm chapter 3, this is one of the songs he wrote. And he was going through a period of time where his own son had turned against him, Absalom, and had an army was trying to take over the kingdom and take David out. His own son. So he's dealing with betrayal. He was dealing with this, and he writes this song in Psalm chapter 3, verses 1 through 6. Lord, how many are my foes? How many rise up against me? Many are saying of me, God will not deliver him. Let's stay right there on that slide for a minute. Now, a lot of people that I grew up with in church would look at that and go, oh, Brother David. Brother David? That's not speaking in faith. That's speaking in doubt. You can't talk like that. Don't confess those things. Don't proclaim those things. What are you doing? Whoa, whoa, whoa. David wasn't done. He wasn't done. He didn't just say this and go, okay, God, I'm done. He has a lot more to say. Let's look at what he says. Next verse. But you, there's the big but you, Lord, are a shield around me, my glory, the one who lifts my head high. I call out to the Lord, and he answers me from his holy mountain. I lie down and sleep. I wake again because the Lord sustains me. I will not fear, though tens of thousands assail me on every side. That's biblical faith right there. He described his situation and then said, okay, I'm done with that. I'm going to talk about God now. Not only am I going to trust you, God, I'm going to have no fear so much that I'm going to be able to sleep at night. I will be able to sleep at night and I will wake up because you sustain me. I don't sustain me. You sustain me. You are my glory and the lifter of my head. You are the shield around me, and no matter if 10,000 come around me, you are my shield and my strength. I take refuge in you, and I'm going to trust you. The devil, the enemy, may try to get you to shake your fist at God, may try to get you to run away from God. And we need to, what's the phrase Pastor Eric always used? Flip the script? We need to turn the tables on him and say, you're trying to get me to leave him? You're trying to get me to doubt him? This is going to make me love him more. This is going to make me trust him more. This is going to make me believe in him more. And so if you could take one thing home with you today, it's this. Biblical faith, the faith we should walk in. You declare what you're going through and then spend the rest of your time declaring what you know to be true about God. If you don't know what to be true about God, open up his word and read about him. God is your healer. God is your provider. God is your restorer. God is your peace. God is your safety. God is also your judge. God is righteous, he's holy, and he's perfect. And he is also trustworthy. So whatever I face, God, I trust you. I trust you. And you alone. So don't deny what you're going through. But don't deny him. He's the one that can help you.